Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. Of course, I am your host, DBJ. All of you who are able to participate in this show live, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube and Twitch are the co hosts. And today, Tuesday, it being Tuesday, it is Level Up Advanced 5th Edition Tuesday, and we are going to take a look at two more character classes and some of the design philosophy and maybe some other books. I have them up in PDF form. Of course, I have them in physical form. To take a look at Level Up 5th Edition if you're someone who is still interested in playing a fifth edition aside or rewritten rule set. We do have Black Flag on the way and a number of other rule sets that actually exist out there. This being one of them that was prior to the mishandled Wizards of the Coast legalese and that kind of thing with the community. So some people still want to play their books, and we are going to take a look at a version of that. Full disclosure, I was a consultant and writer for the Trials and Treasures book from for Level Up A5E, and while I didn't have any writing credits and I didn't write for the other books, The Adventurer's Guide and The Monstrous Menagerie, which make up the three core books. I was part of the team, so I got a chance to look at it as it was being written and can answer some questions like why did they? Basically, a number of people have asked questions, um, left comments like why the choices, and so that's why it is. Mike says, "Hey, good morning, there, Mike." Mike says, "I had some homebrew rules regarding exhaustion. The only condition in 5e without a saving throw. Did I ever share these with you? No, you didn't." And Mike says written because exhaustion basically makes the berserker path unpopular, sometimes unplayable. There are, and we're going to take a look at that as well. Exhaustion is pretty brutal in fifth edition, and part of the reason with the design. So, ENWorld is primarily a I'm probably going to use the wrong descriptor. European British gaming blogosphere company, and the surveys tended to go more towards a survivalist. Um, I'll say survivalist and resource management style, and so because of that, they uh, the design philosophy in Level Up Fifth Edition was to take exhaustion, which kind of still exists, and turn it into fatigue. So there are far more ways to gain it, but there's also a lot more ways to reduce it. And Fifth Edition didn't really do a good job of like they included exhaustion and added exhaustion for certain capabilities like rage, the barbarian rage feature for one of the paths uh, was one of them, but they didn't really offer too many ways to alleviate yourself of that either. So, ENWorld went out of their way basically to create it's like up the quotient of fatigue and then reduce the quotient of fatigue by having ways to get rid of it. So, yep. We're going to get into it. All right. So, in A5E Advanced Fifth Edition, the barbarian has become the berserker, and there are some words, some nomenclature changes, just because some of them have a cultural bias or slant that they wanted to kind of get rid of and try to ride the fine line of this is still pseudo medieval, but we wanted to allow space for other uses as well, and so they decided to go with the berserker. And believe you me, between surveys and writers and things like that, it's pretty difficult. It's like herding cats sometimes to like come down to um an appropriate number or letter or word or something like that. So it's a lot of it is not necessarily like two people going, this is what it's going to be. It involves a lot more into it, and sometimes you have to devolve to the meme. So course, Berserker, we kind of get it. We think of Conan, the shirtless wonder, but there's more to it. And we decided to give other options. For example, the classic Viking is possible with this: big weapons, heavy armor, just be able to wade into battle. And so there is a version of that. But I want to show a table here for something a lot of the character classes have. I didn't do this with uh, with the bard and the adept, but I really should have. So right on this table, along with the names, you have something. It won't let me highlight it the way I want to. Um, there's something known as talents, and at the end of the character class description, you'll see a number of these talents. And so instead of increasing power levels, there's actually an increase in choice. And so you can create the path that you want to take as you start to advance in levels. So we'll go through what these things known as talents are. And at first level, of course, you get a developed talent, and this is one of those things. There's some other things as well, in terms of being able to have differences and for your battle defense and using your rage and things like that. There's something else here known as a furious critical, and you'll see there are options for that as well. And let's get down here. Mm, 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 mm. So of course we have creating berserker class features, um, hit points and whatnot, efficiencies. But I'm going to show you the left side of at first. Um, Proficiency with light armor, medium armor, shield, simple and martial weapons, no tool proficiencies. A lot of this looks very familiar. And then equipment section. The equipment section has been modified and upgraded. So all the sets, the standard sets are done by specific gold piece cost. I guess there was some controversy where each of the packs had the same cost, but the items within it didn't. So that was changed as well. So yeah, and the equipment gives you the weapons that you have. It's like here's a great sword, 4 javelins, and a spear, hide armor, medium shield, climbing gear. And we go back up here, or you can have the tracker set, which has a great axe, short bow, 20 arrows, a chain shirt. You don't normally see armor with the berserker class or barbarians. Now, here at first level, you get to choose whether you want to have be a juggernaut or have a rugged defense. Mm, 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 mm. So rugged defense is what we've seen before, where like while you are not wearing any armor, your your armor class equals 10 plus your dex modifier plus your constitution modifier. You can use a shield. We've seen that before. Oops. Oops. Ooh, ooh, Bing bang, ding dong. And in addition, your speed increases by 5 feet while you aren't wearing heavy armor. At fifth level, your speed increases by additional 5 feet. But if you pick the Juggernaut, you gain proficiency with heavy armor. In addition, your speed is not reduced by wearing heavy armor. You can still benefit from raging while wearing heavy armor, and you do not count the weight of any worn armor when determining your carrying capacity. And this, I in many ways is like the armored berserker, right? It's the stereotypical Viking type of character. Back into the chat. Wish I could just. It doesn't allow me to break it off. Mm, 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 mm. Let's see. Mike says, Berserker pays for a bonus action attack with automatic exhaustion. Yeah, yeah. The War Cleric gets it with Wisdom modifier in those attacks per day, no cost. The Gloomstalker exists and gets a bonus attack. Yep. Ergo, poor choice. And a lot of times, what ends up happening is through when you have a number of if you have more than one person designing something, you can a lot of that stuff gets lost in the mix. And so by using ENWorld tried to alleviate that by using surveys, by going, hey, here's some playtest material, go out there, and then someone could say, wait a minute, this is something else. Mm-mm-mm. There's a reason I see nothing but totem warriors. Yeah. Oi. Zamara says Zealot has been decent, but I thought we were talking about level up. We are. Zealot is nice, and yes, we're level up. I saw Berserker and shit, but yep. So like putting the gold cost next to the pack itself based off of what's in the pack. Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, it was some of the changes were just like were I mean, they're players too, right? So some of the changes were just like, well, wait a minute. Wouldn't it just be easier just to put this next to this and that next to that? So and in the equipment section, it's the same way where I think there's like 15 or 18 different types of adventurers packs and the exact cost of the things in them. Rage hasn't changed much. The beginning bits and pieces of Rage haven't changed much. Um, but as on the right side of this page, oh, let me go back up here. So there are three initial ways to customize your berserker. So one of those is in second level you get combat maneuvers. Combat maneuvers is the 0.25 equivalent caster ability for marshals to have special training when it comes to and of course tactics and special abilities when it comes to using martial attacks and weapons. And there are different schools. They have access to adamant mountain, mirror's glint, rapid current, tempered iron, and tooth and claw. And those are the martial schools. Of course fighters have access to all of it, but you can customize your berserker that way. Furious Critical is another one that's here. Second level, get to maximize the efforts of your mightiest blows. Choose one Furious Critical at fourth level, and every even Berserker level after you learn an additional Furious Critical. And so this is just an option to customize your Berserker by saying, like, oh, when you get a crit, here's something else. And then uh, it down here it says unless otherwise noted, the DC to resist effects is 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your Constitution modifier. Uh, of course, very similar in line to spell casting, but of course you're not casting a spell. You're basically critting creatures and then able to do something else on top of that, and that's a way to resist it if there's some kind of like DC or saving throw or something like that. So here, second level, you can be blinding maneuver. Your attack flings debris into the target's eyes, causes blood to run into their eyes, or otherwise impedes their vision. When you score a critical hit, the target is blinded for a number of rounds equal to your proficiency bonus. There's dazzling prowess, but you need to be sixth level to get it. And then it goes, there's many of these to go on. Deafening blow, inspiring flare, disorienting strike, jockeying blow, knockdown strike, elemental wrath, mighty blow, which requires you to be sixth level, overbearing hit, furious momentum, so on and so forth. I could pick one. Let me see what the if anybody has anything to say in the chat. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Yeah, Zabar says, WotC is the reason why my system only pays lip service to equipment. They handle mundane items extremely poorly to the point where most of them, including food and alcohol, have no point in game. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mike's like, to be fair, more than one person designing is the reason you have an editor. I'm looking at you, Watson. Yeah. Yeah. That's why you need editors are like the hidden editors, and layout are the hidden uh, artistic force in game design, right? Because you you only notice it when it's bad, and it's unfortunate. So here we have many options. War at third level, the ways of combat that have come naturally to you bring new and unexpected lessons. Choose one of the following, and you'll see this in through all the class design. It's like, oh, when you get this level, choose something. Sorry, let me go back up here to this orc or half orc. Agitate is one choice at third level. Fearsome reputation and imposing prowess are one of three choices you can have. And then it goes on here. Martial presence at sixth level. Your methodology to battle seeps further into the way you interact with others and how they interact with you. Choose one of the following, and then you can be forceful or mighty or scary. And then there's advanced battle defense, enhanced vitality, preternatural agility, and I believe roaring paws. Takes one to know one, I think. Oh, it's battle moxie. I'm sorry. School the open road. Choose one of the and you'll see this a lot. Like it'll be you'll see the heading and then choose one of the following. Don't get fooled again, storyteller. Trial and error. And then at 13th level, you have more choices. See, is there one done? Yeah, there it is. Armed assistance at 13th level. And then here another choice, noble curiosity. Your reputation and ferocity have sparked the fascination of the nobility. A livered servant is likely to approach you when you enter the holdings of such a noble, and invite you to take part in their employer's hospitality. This includes lavish feasting, introductions to the rich and powerful, and offers of assistance such as mounts, the repair of your armor and weapons, and miscellaneous items worth less than 5 gold. It doesn't seem like much, but if depending on the type of game you're playing, there's options. Essentially, there's like three options, and some of them lean more towards social or exploration or combat. And you can, and based on the kind of games that you run, or the maybe just that specific campaign, it allows the players to customize their characters to maximize their effect based on the themes of your campaign. All right, now down here are developed talents. Back above, I told you about a table, and it gave you talents. You start out first level with one talent, and it moves on. And these again, you know, when you gain access to a new developed talent, you get to choose one. And these are little minor. Some of them tend more towards exploration, but there's others that it's just little things, boost to customize your character and to give them something. For the most part, they tend to be non-combat, but you'll see. So you like agile sprinter. Uh, adept at transversing obstacles while running, able to efficiently and rapidly climb and leap between trees, vines, rooftops, and ropes. You gain an expertise die on athletics and acrobatics checks made to run, climb, run, and swing. It's something simple like that. Flock step, lead the pack. You can get that at fifth level. I think there's some up here. Maybe I should shrink this down. Mark of the wilderness. You gain an expertise die on intimidation checks. In addition, you may always choose to use strength when rolling an intimidation or persuasion check. Natural tracker, path of blustery autumns, and things of that nature. Path of drowning springs, path of lean winters, path of scorching summers, sharpened senses, etc., etc. And then of course we have ourselves the Berserker archetypes. We'll get into that when I move over. Oh. You guys are talking about something close to my heart. Mike says, well, mundane items have a use, but DMs have to reward innovation with them. Older versions of the game were dungeon focused, so gear had a use. Yeah. Modern tables want a story, reducing the need for using this gear to find pits, sloping floors, hidden doors. Yep, I remember. Yep, the ball bearings, the pouch of ball bearings, the pouch of dust or sand, the 10-foot pole, of course. The I'm looking up at the ceiling. Chickens. Of course, you have to have 50-foot rope. The climbing pitons. There's other stuff in there. Yeah, Mike says ball bearings are for improvised traps or for finding hidden slopes. Again, dungeons. And slopes were important because sloping down in the dungeon what meant that you were engaging in a part of the dungeon that was a level higher than the level that you just left. It was a little bit gamey, but it was important because you knew that the if you went down a sloping pathway, you'd be encountering more dangerous monsters. Yep, finding hidden doors if they were small enough. Yeah, the dust and powder was able to do that. Mike says rogues. Oh, so you're all right there. See, but Mike says rogues are now psychic, spellcasting, teleporting anime heroes. They used to be MacGyver trap makers. They relied on poison. Game changed. The gear didn't. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. Oh man. So the Berserker archetypes, we have ourselves the Dreadnought. Let me go back. Let me go back to a two-page setup and increase the size here. Yeah, there's over here. We've got the Dreadnought, and the the Dreadnought is like heavy armor, running into battle, taking all the hits, basically being a sponge. Mm. It would say, clad in the heaviest armor, these berserkers serve as a mobile bulwark, shielding their companions from harm and using their armor and the momentum it grants to the fullest effect. Ooh, I see. I'm gonna have to report that. There's the Rager, the Dreadnought, the Rager, and the Tempest. And the Tempest is a little more arcane level, but yeah. All right, so essentially that's the Berserker. Tried to change the Berserker from just being Conan like, and yes, you can play like a Viking, but you could also play a Berserker of different kinds of cultures and things of that nature. And all of them aren't necessarily mindless raging. It they are like primal warriors. Would you say they're close to rangers? I dare say you could say that they bump up against rangers in a certain way, but sure, why not? Now we get into clerics and creating a cleric, some of the features. And the most important thing here, to the right, we do have our spell levels table with cantrips and spell slots, and we understand that. And but over to the left side of the screen, there are clerical features, and of course, you get to pick your cleric archetype at first level. As has been previously done in fifth edition. Now I think they've moved everything to third level to try to even it out. But this is based on current fifth edition. There's defensive blessing, and you'll get choices with that. There's something called sacred calls, and you'll see that. And then there's signs. And on this table to the left, at first and second level, you don't get a sign, but then you'll see signs of faith, and they start to move down, and you'll get to see what those mean. Each character class has something like that. Some have knacks, some have talents, and clerics have signs. Again, in the equipment section, you get to pick your equipment. Oh, I'm sorry. In tools, so clerics do not start with an armor proficiency. You'll see why. And they have simple weapons. And this is so that some people may want to play a cleric that is like a literal monk, right? Let me see if this piece of artwork kind of describes that, right? Like some people may want to play literally like a monastery monk, shaved top of the head, walking along, prosthesizing or something like that. And you'll see where you'll have the ability to pick armor proficiencies. There are the equipment packs. The Holy Warriors set is 122 gold. There's a religious combat set, and then there's a spiritual protector set, and it has different things in it. Like the spiritual protector set has a quarter staff, two flasks of holy water, some padded leather, etc. Whereas the Holy Warrior has a longbow and quiver, a mace, scale mail, and the other one has javelins, warhammer, etc., etc. So under the cleric archetypes, in this book, there's the healer, the oracle, the sun priest, or the war priest. And they tried to make them as generalized as possible. um, so that you could re-flavor them for your game setting. So the healer makes perfect sense, right? Healer heals, goes along. Oracle, reads the future. The Sun Priest is a little bit more like um, bringing down, bringing down the wrath of the gods, and then the War Priest wades in the battle. Mm, 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 mm. And over here on the left, starting at first level, you get a defensive blessing. So you can pick again, choose one of the following. So you can have armor of conviction. So while you are not wearing any armor or wielding a shield, your AC equals 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your wisdom modifier. Also, in addition to the spells you normally prepare, you always have Shield of Faith prepared. So that's the person that's like, I don't wear any armor at all. I go into battle with my faith. But you can also pick Sacred Archery or Spirit Soldier. You gain proficiency with light armor, medium armor, and shields. And that's where that comes in as a choice. Under the Sacred Call, you can have a choose one of the following, like Clerical Charisma, where crowds find your public presence irresistible, or Ordination. Your mission in the world is supported by the spiritual community. As a formal leader within your religious order, you are expected to perform ceremonies of your faith. Or Zeal of the Convert. You enthusiastically see the hand of a greater entity everywhere. You gain advantage on persuasion checks when you invoke the name of your deity or movement during a conversation with a pious person. If the listener is negatively disposed to your greater entity or movement, you have disadvantage instead. And so there's different ways to customize your character. Spell casting, of course, is regular spell casting. There are different ways to channel divinity. So let's see if we can highlight this on the left. You start with two of these effects for channel divinity: turn undead, and an additional effect dependent on your chosen cleric archetype. You may choose which channel divinity to effect to create each time you use the feature. And so basically, yeah, just modifications of channel divinity. And of course, we have channel divinity turn undead on the very right. I'll get back into the chat in just a moment. So at how can I explain this? At second level, there's principles of devotion, and at second level, after much contemplation and communion with your greater entity, you pledge to uphold certain standards of behavior beyond what is necessary for adventure. So this is where we get into trying to make the cleric feel more clerical, or that maybe that's a terrible description, to make them feel very much more religious. And so you there are options here that you can choose. You you do not have to pick one and stick with it, but you must role play a behavior to get the benefit from it. So an example in this is, in return for your greater entity in return, your greater entity grants you one of the following related boons. When you fail to uphold this pledge, you lose any benefits from it until 24 hours after you finish a long rest and rededicate yourself. And so some of the examples are like chaste. In exchange for foregoing pleasures of the heart and flesh, you are hardened to the persuasions of others. Add your wisdom modifier to any saving throws made to resist being charmed, right? Or destitute. In exchange for foregoing material luxury, vendors who are not explicitly opposed to your greater entity are compelled to give you heavy discounts of up to 20% and innkeeps offer free lodging. Devotional integrity, image of the divine. Each of these has like a behavior attached to it that's classically religious, and then you role play that and you get to choose it, and then you get something else. Like merciful. In exchange for foregoing bloodshed, such as torture, attacking unconscious creatures, and dealing lethal wounds to creatures you reduce to 0 hit points, you are yourself granted mercy. When you have already succeeded on 2 death saving throws, you have advantage on death. When you have already succeeded on 2 death saving throws, you have advantage on death saving throws. And the reason why it's worded that way is because there are things to give you more than 3 death saves. So if you've already exceeded on 2, you get an advantage on your next rolls. And I think if you play a human, there's an option to get 4 death saves or something. Um, so yeah, let's get back into the chat because I cannot see it and it won't let me pop it out. Yeah, hey, I'm putting that up there. What? Zamar, I gotta say it how you say it. Okay. What? You mean clerics are expected to act like go clerics? Yeah. Yeah. And the surveys really like one part of the surveys were like, well, hey, let's change spell casting between clerics and wizards, and that was a little bit too daunting. And to make it like, oh, you have to pray, and there was a percentage chance to pray for certain. And yeah, that was just too daunting. So instead, we were like, okay, why don't we have features so that the characters have to act in a way? And mind you, this is a choice, right? No one's making you play your alignment, right? And you don't have to have those features, but that's one of the things in the features. So Mars says, yeah, but they never updated the items to come in the game. Oh yeah, talking about like using equipment. Yeah, they never updated the items to accommodate the game. I honestly feel they should have removed gear from sixth edition, aside from weapons, armor, and money as well. Yeah, unintended consequences, right? Here's a bunch of gold for you to not spend it on anything. Mm, Yep. See, a lot of problems with the game. I'm sorry. I'm just going back and reading what you had to say. Yeah, yeah. The low magic setting. So, Zamara says part of your comment was a lot of problems with how the game world works. I'm actually doing a 5e rewrite so that all magic is leveled magic and fixed for 5e so that it's back to being a low magic setting. Yeah, they've really gotten away from that. And that does really depend on making magic hard to obtain from nothing, meaning no few, no few new spells on level up, mainly spell slots. Samar says, I quite like the idea of clerics and warlocks, and to a lesser extent monks, having to do something for power. I'm starting to think of how to mimic that with the other classes. It's a little bit difficult. I mean, I suppose I think one of the issues is is sticks and carrots, right? Like, do you use a stick? Do you punish the players for not performing a thing, or do you offer carrots where if you act a certain way you gain a benefit? And there's some players who don't like the carrot ability, right? Like they're just like, I don't want to have to role play a thing to get a numerical feature. They just want to have it. So that can be a thing, right? um Here in silence. Here's one of the things that one of the features of silence, principles of devotion. And it says, in exchange for speaking only to cast spells, you are able to compel other creatures to action with only a glance. When a creature within 10 feet of you makes a persuasion check, you may add your wisdom modifier to the result. And that's kind of interesting. Like, these are all little simple things to k- kind of shape your cleric, your character of faith. And mind you, role playing wise, maybe it's not that you're choosing as a player, you're choosing these, but maybe your character isn't choosing the thing. For example, maybe you feel like you've committed some kinds of crimes or sins against your faith, so your character is being air quotes punished, doing acts of contrition to gain these benefits, right? And maybe the character thinks that they are doing an act of contrition of silence, but the player knows they're getting a benefit. The character doesn't. I mean, that's just a role playing thing in my head of like, well, why would my character choose to do that? Well, because. Mm-mm-mm, mm-mm-mm. So anyway, we have sacred office, and there are again, fourth level. Choose one of the following: empowered turning, Each time you gain empowered turning, choose one of the following, right? Like for empowered turning, you can choose, I think it's at fifth level. You gain this feature again at eighth, 11th, 14th, and 17th level. So one of the features is like command undead, or destroy undead, or turn ideology. This was kind of cool. Turn ideology. Choose one of the following: chaotic, evil, good, or lawful. When you use turn undead, you can choose to affect creatures with the chosen alignment trait. You can select this option multiple times. So, in other words, like you could um, specify either chaotic, evil, good, or lawful, and you can choose ones that have that in their alignment feature, and like just turn them or affect them with one of your other additional features and stuff. And again, as all the character classes, when you gain a certain level, like Sacred Presence at ninth level, you get to pick one of these three. Um, at 10th level, you have choices. At 20th level, you get choices. And then at the very end of the class features, there are signs of faith. When you gain access to a new sign of faith, choose one of the following. And that was on at the very beginning. There was a table on the left side, and it had you could pick one feature. I think you gain a feature at third level, and it moves up from there, and you get to pick these. So anything from ancestral guidance, compassionate nurse, faithful historian, gentle healer, monastic austerity, numinous awareness, premonitions, preservation, soothing words, supernal intuition, theologian, voice of doom, righteous path, graceful fall. Graceful fall. Falling from a height greater than 30 feet causes your greater entity to intervene. You are protected as if by the featherfall spell. This sign does not use your reaction. It's just a natural part of your character. And then, of course, we have the cleric archetypes. We've got the uh, healer, the oracle, and let's see what the oracles. The oracles channel divinity. The oracle's channel divinity is oral oracle. At sixth level, you are able to use your channel divinity to see and hear through the eyes of another for 1 minute. When using this feature, you become blinded and deafened to your surroundings and sense through a creature you name. As long as the creature is alive and on the same plane of existence, it makes a wisdom saving throw. On a failure, you can see what it sees and hear what it hears. An unconscious creature automatically fails its save, but only hears; it sees nothing. You cannot see through the eyes of a blinded creature or hear through the ears of a deafened creature. If the creature is dead or protected from divination magic, this feature has no effect. On a successful save, a creature is immune to this feature for 24 hours. And then all powerful oracle. So that's just the oracle. And there's other ways to use the channel divinity. Sun Priest has summon the stars. And where is it? Second level radiant burst, and then summon the stars. You can use an action to clutch your holy symbol and emit a bright blast. In addition to dispelling any magical darkness within 30 feet, enemy creatures within 30 feet make a constitution saving throw or are blinded by the light for 1 minute. Yes, I know the song lyrics. I don't want to get in trouble. And then we've got the War Priest, and their channel divinity is uh, Blessed Proficiency. You may use your channel divinity to grant yourself proficiency with improvised weapons or one rare weapon until the end of your next long rest. And that's for the War Priest. And it moves up from there. And then, of course, at the end, we've got all of the spells. Any spell casting classes have all the spells listed at the end of their run. So we get into that. Boop, boop, boop. Let's see. Zamar says, turn ideology in practice. Quote, I have become a paragon on evil. All good aligned creatures find me so repulsive and imposing that they run at the sight of me. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you can use it like I want to turn evil, or I want to turn lawful. I want to turn chaotic. It's instead of undead, it just you get to turn the alignment, which I guess As a side effect, you may not need to detect an alignment. You could just turn alignment and then those individuals leave you because of the words you say and your presence and stuff. It's the idea of like not going the people that are like, I'm not going into church, I might get struck by lightning 'cause they consider themselves to be evil. Yeah, getting back to gold use, older editions had things like, well, strongholds and followers to quote another creator. Yeah. 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 A level of fifth edition has stronghold building, so you can acquire strongholds. You can build, spend it on. Okay, not necessarily holds, but you can build. You can retire your character and start to build something like a thieves guild or a temple, a wizard's tower, uh, even a farm, a homestead, like a farm or something like that. So, wanted to show you guys that. I think I pulled up some more. I pulled up more things so that we can take a look at some other interesting features. Let's see what's pretty good. Let's go to the Monstrous Menagerie because that's always a great one. Let's go to the Monstrous Menagerie. Let's increase the size of this, and then I'll switch over. Mm, 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 mm. Did it switch over? Yeah. Okay. So here we have the Monstrous Menagerie. We just did the Cleric and Berserker, but we're going to go into some monsters. And what I love about and Sly Flourish has really like he's very bullish on the MM book, the Monstrous Menagerie, and the main reason why he's very bullish on it is because it gives you a lot of tools and a lot of inspiration for the how to use a lot of the monsters and creatures in in the book. Everything from like, okay, so we've got a pit fiend here. Let's go to pit fiend. So we got our pit fiend here. Gives you a little blurb, some give you a little bit of fluff or whatever. And we have of course, we have our stat block. If you'll notice in the monstrous menagerie, I know you can't see it very well. Your hit points, you'll see a bloodied condition, and I'll talk a little bit about the bloodied condition in a moment. And what the bloodied, it's not really a condition; it's more like a state of being. I know that sounds different than condition, but it sounds similar to condition, but it's not. I'll explain in a minute. So, of course, we have all their capabilities. We have their actions. They are divided into actions, bonus actions, and reactions, as well as that there's a combat section located for most of the monsters. So it gives you like there's pre a prescribed possible tactics it can use. So, for example, like the pit fiend prefers to bite opponents that haven't yet been poisoned. If three or more enemies are gathered together, it may instead use Fireball. For its bonus action, the pit fiend attacks with its tail unless it's near a weak melee attacker, in which case it grapples with its claw. When the pit fiend is bloodied, and this is where bloodied is more of like the equivalent of morale, although there are some creatures that either reduce their capabilities because they're bloodied or actually increase and become more ferocious when they're bloody, and it's described within the, the stats. But anyway, uh, when the pit fiend is bloodied, it flies to the nearest ranged attacker and uses a circle of fire, which blocks line of sight for many enemies and prevents creatures from easily escaping it. While fighting in the circle, it uses its mace attack to push opponents through the flames, forcing them to take even more damage if they run back through the flames to reach the pit fiend. And so it gives you just an example of like, oh, here's some ways that it uses its capabilities, and of course you're not beholden to it, but there's a lot of that. And then we have a lot of like uh for especially for a lot of the boss level style monsters, lieutenant and up, we do have variations like the pit fiend general. Some of them are named creatures and that kind of thing. And then Of course, we got dinosaurs. Here's the let's go to a single page. I'm going to go to bum, bum. Sorry. For the doppelganger, it gives you a bit of lore, and then under we have a feature here called Legends and Lore, and with an Arcana or History check, characters can learn the following, and so through exploration, questioning people on roads, finding evidence, they can uncover this information so that they can prepare themselves for maybe some of those enemies if they decide to engage in the exploration pillar. And so there's different DC levels, DC 10, 15, 20. And for nearly every creature, there's something like that. And then there's doppelganger encounters, and there's a CR level. Maybe there's one doppelganger, and there's some equipment. I mean, not equipment, sheesh, treasure that they may have. Uh, Between CR 5 and 10, there's either two or three doppelgangers, or a doppelganger with one D4 plus one thugs, or a doppelganger with 1 to 3 were rats, or a doppelganger with 1d6 plus one were jackals. And even that can throw off the PCs. Like if the PCs start fighting were rats and the doppelganger looks like one of the were rats, that's all they may be thinking, except the doppelganger is not going to be affected by something that affects lycanthropes. And it's a way to it's a little bit of a trick, sure. And then there's some behaviors and some random behaviors. You could roll them up or pick one, choose one. Wilderness and underground behavior, settlement behavior, and then of course all of um, their actions. Of course, we've got the bloody condition, and that may affect some of its behavior. We have actions and bonus actions, and then combat. Doppelgangers strike with surprise, either by lurking unseen or by adopting a trusted guise. They use read thoughts to gain advantage on attacks. When outnumbered, a doppelganger flees. So just a little bit of an option. Ooh, there's got to be. Let me pause on an image. Sample Dragon Lich. Zamora's like, that raptor was strangely humanoid. Um, yeah, Mike, bloody is a status our table kept from 4E, just a marker of progress. It is. And although there are some monsters where it has a mechanical effect, bloodied is basically like it's at half it, you've gotten it down to at least half of its hit points or more. You could tell the player characters literally this creature is bloodied to let them know how far along they are. And then, of course, as a game master or as a narrator in Level Up A5E, you can then, it's a mental track to go, maybe this creature might start acting differently, right? Like a doppelganger that's bloody is probably going to run or parlay, right? Beg for its life. A number of the creatures may either double down on their attacks or actions, or like you drive off the brown bear because you bloodied it. You the uh, the dragon escapes. Takes its treasure, as much of its treasure in its claws, and flies away because it's bloody. Mm-mm. That's a good object. Zamar says, actually, we should make that a topic: how to design meaningful strongholds and run realistic followers. Huh. Okay. Okay. Samara says, I might have to get level up 5e just for that, considering the fact that um, SNF honestly is a hard to use resource for designing strongholds. Oh, strongholds and followers. It's hard to use resource for designing strongholds. There, let me. I'll see if I can find it. And then Zamar says D&D can be the focus, but maybe other systems can pop in here and there. Oh yeah, heck yeah, heck yeah. Um, Zamar says dragons are so powerful that even their undead is covered in pure muscle. I see this image. I was just like, I don't remember seeing that, but I don't know why a dragon would be skinned alive or be alive and not have its skin. But wow, Mike says, let's be clear, doppelgangers have an impact over a long play. Yeah, yeah. Finding out your treasured NPC died weeks ago and you've been dealing with a doppelganger as drama, but most DMs don't have the patience. I I one time I only was able to pull this off once. I had a player who basically they played, but they really were like kind of bored with the character. And he was really he got bored very easily, and I pulled him aside, gave him a note, and I was like, "Your character died, got killed by doppelganger, and was replaced." And you would have thought he was so giddy. He was like, right, and played this doppelganger for like 3 or 4 sessions, doing underhanded stuff. Oh, it was great. It was great. And then it was a perfect excuse to do player on player because he was just like, yeah, I mean, but he played it up so much. He was just like, I can't wait for the PCs to kill my character. It would, I mean, it was awesome. And then from that point on, we learned like, why don't we? He started playing monsters after a while, but it was really cool how that happened. It just came about, and I was like, let me see if we'll go for it. Passed him a note, and he was like, yeah, yeah, my character's dead. They eventually found his PC dead, like strung up. He was like choked to death and strung up in a tree or something. Like it was crazy. It was really weird. Like says, I pulled the same routine with a hag, but now that I'm known for that kind of trickery, players are more suspicious. Yeah, there's no more vicious creature than a PC playing a monster. Hell yeah, yeah, because because as a dungeon master, you're just like, do I want to be that vicious when a player like grabs up a bugbear or something? Oh man, and they get to play the bad guy. Yeah, yeah. All right, let's see. Is it in Trials and Treasures? All right. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's go through a couple of more monsters and some of the little bit of features. I'm gonna try to find one that's got the bloodied condition. Let me see. Lair featured. No, these are all dragons. Dragons, and I don't believe they have any. No, none of them have like a bloodied, like an actual mechanic. Dragons. Okay, overloaded dragons, earth dragons, sea dragons, shadow dragon lairs, legendary actions. Spellcaster. No, 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 no. Okay. You know what? And listen, I'm not a dragon hater. Okay, I'm really not. But for as many dragons as we get our like we get excited for, there's a lot of minimal dragon sightings in role-playing games, man. I mean, especially for Dungeons and Dragons. You would think that Dungeons and Dragons would have put out a all I know they have a dragon book, but I'm talking about an all dragon setting that just doesn't exist. It's really crazy. No. Dryad. No, doesn't have one. Air elementals. It's going to be hard to find it because it'll be it, it it's going to be tucked down into some of its features. But yeah, but yeah, like I like a lot of these enemies and how they're designed. I forgot to let you know. All of the math has been redone on all the monsters from armor class, movement, hit die, damage types. All of that has been reconfigured to become much more level instead of like uh, uh, instead of capping out at a height. All of them have been increased. So, like for example, it's a good example. Like, it's hard. It's hard to. It's. Mm, yeah. It's hard to do it. Um, let's see. At Eton, we have what's something in here that is quite a bit different. We have the bloody condition. You don't normally see that. Under perception, the Etten, the two-headed giant, under perception, it does have perception +2, and then gets an additional 1d4 because it gets an expertise die for having two heads. Of course, it has it's two-headed creature. Um, Etten can take two reactions each round, but not more than one per turn. Mm, 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 mm. No, and there's nothing here for when it's oh, here we go. Got one. I got one. I knew I found one. All right. So the two-headed giant makes a club attack. It's got his weapon attack +7 to hit, 5-foot range, one target, does 14 or 2d8 +5 damage, bludgeoning damage. If the target is a creature and the Etten is bloodied, the target makes a DC 15 strength check and is knocked prone on a failure. So when the Etten is bloodied, not only can it hit you with the club, but it can knock you down if you fail a strength check against a DC 15 when it hits you. So that is one that's like embedded within the creature, has a mechanical effect if it's bloodied, and that's basically like it's enraged, right? It's got a spear through its thigh, it's got a couple of claw marks on its back, it's been, its left arm's been burned or something, or it's struck by lightning, and now it's just like and going on. So slightly cheesecake art, very slight, but classic. All right, we'll get out of this and maybe show something else. All right, let's get back into the chat and then move on. Um mm, mm, mm. So Mars says my players have a hag living in their town. Okay, and one of the players befriended and trusted her. I just needed her face heel turn moment, probably when her daughter and teacher enters the scene. Ooh, yeah, nothing like a hag, like a coven of hags, and especially if they've never been introduced as a hag or that there are even hags in the area. It's just, they're just beautiful and everybody loves them. Michael says, Dave, you raise as a white. Dave turns with that's funny, yeah. Dave, you raise as a white. Dave turns with a smile that would get him arrested if within 100 feet of a school. Dave, what the fuck are you doing? Said Craig. My job. Exactly. A smile that get him arrested within 100 feet of a school. Yeah, you got that like chin down, eyes looking out from their thick bushy eyebrows, rubbing their hands together with like a devilish smile, one of those Cheshire smiles that like the Grinch does. And when he sees all the presents under the tree, like he's a mean one, Mr. Grinch. Yeah. Oh, and here we see a beautiful example of an Ettercap queen at 6'7". She is tiny for her kind, still young, but watching the ground around her, you can see her Simps giving her praise. Yeah, I don't know if they use the word Simps, but I get what you mean. Is that a medieval term? Very good though. Yeah. Oh yeah. Mike says, Edens are great for roleplay situations, but are used as sacks of hit points. Imagine each head instead arguing how to deal with the PCs. You could set up an interesting social encounter if you want it. I absolutely agree with you on that one. I absolutely agree. Yeah, it's like, yeah, but the cool thing is to confuse the heads. That's the cool thing, not killing it. Flumps are stupid. All right, Forgotten God. That's Yeah. It's what it is a challenge rating 10. Oh, that's because it's been forgotten. God appearance, snake deity, anthropomorphi anthropomorphic horse deity, a wolf-headed goddess, green-skinned stag-headed goddess with the body of a goat and a human head, crab-headed deity, armless goddess, fat clay god who holds a severed head in one hand, a dragon deity or a pillar of purple flame. Some of the named creatures have even even have names for them. Let's see if we can find some genies, signs, behaviors, names. Okay, there we go. Heavy names. Boop, 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 boop. Yep. And then there's some encounters, signs, behaviors, like under here for the Jin, like looking for a legendary item rumored to be nearby, or surveying, looking for a suitable place to mine, or smells treasure nearby, perhaps your treasure. Living in luxury in its lair, or demands a tribute of treasure or information, things like that. So just some behaviors that maybe it's like I don't want to fight you, but we sure can exchange some information. All right, so we're done here. Let's get back up to the adventurer's guide, and let's see if we can get to let's go to I'm going to go to equipment because you guys mentioned equipment before we get out of here. Here we go. There's equipment and currencies, starting gold per class, and under a lot of the equipment there's ways to you can upgrade and modify your equipment as well. So there's tables to do that, along with like a lot of the weapons, how much they cost, damage they cost. I mean, cause other strange weapons like a garrote, lance, net, atlatl, spear thrower, improvised weapons, things like that. Weapon proficiencies that you can modify your weapons with. More weapon properties. I'm sorry, not proficiencies, properties. Ammunition types, rare items, such as like exploding ones, cultural weaponry, rare melee weapons like the like a sword pistol or double sided weapon, spike chain, the assassin's gauntlet. We know what that is with the hidden blade in it and stuff. Rare ranged weapons, different types of armor, and then we get into is it materials? Armor that's armor continued, um, fine and masterwork weapons, customizing armaments, and then there are different materials like adamantine, bone, bronze, cloth, cold iron, hide, iron itself, leather, mithril, silver, steel, stone, and so you could even do this with, let's say, your world building, and one community has like they use they use steel for their weaponry, whereas with iron, it can get rusted. And of course, there's cost modifiers, weight modifiers, um, the DC for smithing tools to repair broken items, which repairability. You can't just use a mending spell to fix all this stuff. It requires time and resources and proficiency with tools, that kind of stuff. So anyway, we'll leave it at that. Let's get back to the title page. Bam. Boop, boop, boop. Level Up 5th edition. Thank you very much, guys, for being part of the show. Let me end this with talking to you guys, and we'll get out of here. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, Mike says improvised weapons need a better explanation and scaling for 5e. I agree. So everybody defaults to the D4, but I'm like, I think it'd be more interesting to have, a barbarian picks up the dinner table. I think it would do more than a die 4, and maybe even have some other benefits like becoming a tower shield or something like that. Yeah, everyone just defaults to D4, but that's actually not what it says. You guys. There is no creatures that can't be used for an interesting social encounter. I've made my players feel bad over a hyena protecting her pups because they thought an easy encounter in the hills. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and sometimes you just like, "Oh, it's I don't know. It's a dangerous creature. Let's kill it. It's protecting its young." Uh-oh. Right? Like, I don't want to hurt it now. Can we just go around it? Yeah, even animals and like mindless creatures, you can have a bit of social encounter with it, right? Mike says one of my first out of the box encounters was the argument, an Etten encounter where one head has a helm of alignment change, which I had to rewrite for 5e. Oh, yeah, you gotta yeah. Smart says was just a free bag of XP, not a creature living in the world. That caused them to pause when attacking anything, only to later watch in horror when waiting nearly cost the life of a traveling merchant trying to get to another town. They watched half the man's people go down and even attack the merchant before figuring out that the cultists surrounding the merchant were the true aggressors. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, it's like, nope, you were wrong about who was the who was the bad guy or something. I agree though. Scaling should be via size. A standard size has a hit on top of size difference. I've heard I've heard in the community like what was it? Changing the die type. This deals with scaling, not necessarily improvising. Um changing stepping the die type up and down based on size to accommodate larger and smaller foes and PCs against other larger and smaller foes. So an example would be a long sword of a human size would be a D8, whereas a long sword carried by halflings would be a D6, would be basically their short sword version. Whereas a large creature with an appropriately sized long sword for them would be a D10, and then a huge one would be D12, so on and so forth. And like if you took your long sword up against a medium-sized creature, it's a D8, against a large creature would be D6, and then against huge and above would be die 4, or maybe even above D4 would just be 1 point or something, or D2 if you wanted to do 5e doesn't use D2s, but something like that. And I was like, that's kind of different. It would now. Here's the word. It would nerf a lot of the the power punching that some of the characters have, but it would bring a lot more lethality to it, and make characters pause when they go up against like dinosaurs and dragon turtles and things like that. Yeah, Zabar says they used to do that for weapons in 3E. They dropped it because it became broken. Yeah, Mike says 2D a coin. I have a 2D die, which is it's not a coin, it's actually a spell book. Although I do have coins as dice. I should show off my dice collection. I mean, at one point, but I don't. But I'd have to have a link for people to buy it, and they're all so mixed up. Urgh. Anyway, guys, got to get out of here. Thank you very much for being part of the show. Tomorrow is World Building Wednesday. I might show off. I'm feeling very bullish about some SRDs that I found. Some role playing games with full SRDs from Italy. So, yep, you got to go too. All right, so guys, we're getting out of here. Got to get out of this place. But I do hope you do come back. Please like, share, subscribe, spread the word of the channel. Stop by live if you can. Drop comments. I read all the comments. So all that kind of good stuff. Guys, have a great one. I have to go as well. See you later. Peace.